Good morning, class. In today's lesson, I will discuss about listening and speaking. So when we say listening, it is receiving language through ears. So it is the act of hearing what others are saying and trying to understand what that means. So we have different types of listening. So we have active listening, empathic listening, critical listening, and listening for enjoyment. So let's discuss this one by one. So active listening is listening carefully to determine clearly the message delivered by the other person. So example of this is when you are listening to your teacher discussing a lesson. So that is the type of listening that you should use. So you will know that it is an active listening if that student can answer the questions asked by the teacher. So another example of active listening is when you are listening to an instruction given by someone and you were able to follow that kind of instruction. Next, we have the empathic listening. So it is an attempt to understand the other person. It is done by perceiving things in the other person's perspective. So in this kind of listening, it is showing some empathy. So it's like putting your feet on the shoes of the others. So example of this is when you are listening to your friend's problem. So you have to use this kind of listening. Next, we have the critical listening. It is listening to challenge the value of the speaker's message. The listeners evaluate the accuracy, meaning, and purpose of the message. So example of this is when you are listening to the son of our president. So you are trying to evaluate what is he saying. You are trying to analyze, and then you can also form your opinions and then judge his statements. Another example of this is when you are listening to singing contestants. So you have to evaluate the tone of his or her voice, how he or she pronounced the words, so that is critical listening. Another example of this is when you are listening to someone who is delivering his or her declamation piece. So you are evaluating or analyzing if his or her action is accurate to the words he or she is uttering. Next, we have listening for enjoyment. It is listening for fun and relaxation. This is the type of listening where our main purpose is just to entertain. Example of this is when we are listening to music to enjoy and relax. Next, we have the speaking. Speaking is the human vocal communication using language. So it is the act of conveying information and expressing one's feelings or emotions in a spoken language. So we have here purposes of speaking. We have to describe, to narrate, to persuade, and to entertain. So first, we have to describe. So we give details to create concrete images. So sometimes we speak to describe something. And in describing something, of course, we have to use a lot of adjectives. So for example, you want to describe about the park you have visited. So you will say that in the park, the seesaws are colorful. Or the children are wearing colorful clothes. So something like that. Next is to narrate. So we tell a story, we speak about characters, settings, conflicts, and sequence of events. So sometimes we speak to narrate something we experience. So for example, you have watched the cartoon Snow White. So you're going to tell what happened to the story, who are the characters involved, what is the problem in that story, and how the characters resolve the problem. Next, we have to persuade. So we attempt to convince others to take a stand. So sometimes we speak to persuade someone to believe our arguments or our stand. For example, I will persuade you that Lee Min-ho is way better than Lee Jung-suk because Lee Min-ho is more handsome compared to Song Joong-ki, so something like that. Next, we have to entertain. So we provide enjoyment or pleasure to our audience. So sometimes we speak just to entertain our listeners. So sometimes we make funny jokes to entertain them and to make them laugh. So that's the end of our discussion.